Hey, my name is Joe Bakhmutsky and welcome to Simplify Cancer podcast. Today I'm talking to Kate Williams, who is a fantastic specialist on cancer and exercise. I'm sure you're going to love it. Thanks for tuning in. Hey Kate, thanks very much for taking the time to speak to me. I really appreciate it. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do and what are you passionate about?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks very much for having me on today, Joe. So I guess the first thing is I'm an accredited exercise physiologist. I've been practicing for about 8 years now, working with people with a whole range of different chronic medical issues. At the moment, I work at DNA Health Group, which is a private practice based in Cheltenham in the Bayside suburbs of Melbourne. And about 4 years ago, I realised that I had a bit of a passion and an interest in exercise oncology and co-founded the Movement Against Cancer program around that time and, really sort of specialising a bit more in that area. So, in terms of work, that's what keeps me ticking. And I guess personally, I love keeping active myself. Love my road cycling particularly. I love taking my little dog down to the beach and having a bit of run around. But other than that, what am I passionate about? All the typical Melbourne things, food and coffee and my football team.
Which is?
Hawthorn.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yep. Big Hawks fan.
Okay, fantastic, Kate. And in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions that people have around cancer? I mean, is it even a good idea to exercise when you have cancer? And if it is, I guess, what are some of the benefits of exercise during cancer?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest misconception is probably a pretty obvious one in that it's not that people feel that it's not safe. Which is understandable in a way because historically cancer patients have been told to take it easy and rest. Why would someone who feels sick, why would they feel that the best thing for them to do is to go and do a workout and kind of spend what little energy they feel like they have right now? But the thing is that we certainly have plenty of evidence to say that exercise is perfectly safe. In fact, to my knowledge, I'm yet to see a study that suggests that exercise isn't safe. And, there's definitely very, very good arguments to suggest that anyone who is undergoing treatment for cancer or has undergone treatment for cancer in the past should be doing exercise. And the list is very long in terms of benefits. I don't know how much time we've got, but certainly we know that it really helps people to cope better with their treatments, particularly with things, common side effects. Fatigue is a big one. Pain and nausea. It also can really help to stabilize some of the body composition changes that patients go through. So, for example, a lot of men who undergo hormone treatment, they lose a lot of muscle mass and they gain a lot of body fat. And we know that exercise can help to basically reverse that process or at least maintain it. Bone density can be a big issue with these treatments as well. And we know that exercise can help to maintain bone density. This obviously can increase strength and fitness. Yep. And improve people's everyday functioning. So all those activities that they do on a daily basis can become a bit easier with the right exercise program. It also has a wonderful effect on mental health. And I think that's a really important one to state. Obviously, depression and anxiety are quite common for people that are going through cancer or have been through cancer. And exercise is proven to help keep these things at bay or be a bit of a release for these things. It's really important that we mention as well that it can actually help to improve patients' life expectancy, both in regards to the cancer itself, but also for some of the other chronic issues that come from cancer treatments. So unfortunately, cancer survivors are more prone to things like heart disease and diabetes, and we know that exercise can help keep those away as well. And really excitingly, we think that perhaps, we need a bit more evidence around this, but that exercise can actually help the efficacy of cancer treatment as well, and particularly with chemotherapy. So that's a bit of a watch this space one, but there's some very exciting research happening in that field. So with all these long lists of benefits with exercise, I think the thing about it is if it was a pill, if you could get exercise in a pill, pretty much every doctor, every oncologist would be prescribing it if it was that easy. So yeah, we really think of it as medicine.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Kate. I mean, I know that when I was going through chemotherapy and my oncologist, David Pook, has recommended me to do walking every single night, even if I was really down, really feeling really flat. I know that alone has helped me tremendously. Like you mentioned, mental side of things, but also physically. It gave me more energy and I actually felt better over the long term. So that's really cool. And how do you know, Kate, when you've pushed yourself far enough with exercise, but not too much?
Yep.
How do you find that sweet spot?
That is a great question, and it's a really important one, and one that I get asked quite often, actually. And, exercise intensity is really important because if you push yourself too much, you could leave yourself feeling, sore and tired, which we don't want, obviously. But if you don't push yourself enough, then you're potentially not going to get the benefits, of what it is you're trying to achieve. So it's important that we find that balance and that happy medium with intensity. So in the clinic here, we use tools like heart rate monitors and ratings of exertion to measure whether people are working at the right intensity. But when my clients are working out independently at home, I get them to use a really simple test called the talk test. And basically what that means is when you're exercising, so whether you be going for a walk or going for a swim or whatever it is that you're doing, you should be able to, if you were with someone, hold a short conversation with them. If you're finding that you're having to stop and sort of take a breath and it's becoming quite hard to sort of hold that conversation, or, if you can imagine that you're probably pushing too hard. Now, on the flip side to that, if you could break out into a song, if you could sing, then you're actually not working hard enough. So that's a really good sort of basic test that you can use to find the right level of intensity.
Oh, yeah, that's a great tool. Mm-hmm. And is there any specific type of exercise that someone can do right now that will help them deal better with treatment?
Yeah, look, it's going to be different for everyone. That's a really important thing to say. So, as exercise physiologists, we very much focus on prescribing exercise for the individual. Everyone's situation will be different depending on the type of cancer that they have, the type of treatment that they're going through or have been through, among, lots of different things. So the exercise that they used to do previously and all of that sort of stuff. And it's important that I say that as well when we're talking about the safety of exercise. That's if it's prescribed appropriately. Yep. But certainly one of the best things that people can do is just try and continue on with their day-to-day activities. A lot of people stop these when they're going through treatment, and that can really feed into the fatigue and actually make it worse. So it's important that we try and do those, keep those going. And, those things that keep you off the couch and just keep you moving, they're what we call incidental physical activity. And that's really important to, as I said, keeping fatigue and also, depression and mental health in a good space. A really great mantra that I use around this as well is something is better than nothing and more is better than less. And if you're achieving those two things, then you're probably in the right zone for yourself.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. And, Kate, many of us face challenges after treatment, like with lingering side effects or, the threat of late effects, things like cardiovascular disease and also, I guess, mental health and dealing with anxiety, like what if the cancer has come back, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Like, what can a cancer survivor do to get into a good shape physically?
Yeah, well, I think if we break down the exercise a little bit further into some more specific guidelines, so it's talking about keeping up your incidental physical activity, but there's three main types of exercise that I get most of my patients to do. I emphasize again that things need to be individual, but when we talk about exercise, we often talk about cardiovascular exercise, which is what you're doing with your walking. So it's really important to get a form of that happening because that's the one that, again, is very important for keeping your energy levels up, keeping heart disease away. The second type of exercise that we prescribe often, and this is the one that actually a lot of people are often missing, is resistance exercise or strengthening exercises. And that's to help you maintain a good muscle mass. So you won't get that from walking, but you can get it from obviously doing things like lifting weights. You don't need to have any equipment. A lot of the things that you can do at home don't need any equipment, or you can just use things around the house. But things where you're basically putting your muscles under a bit of stress, such that they're forced to adapt and to grow to be able to manage that stress on a continuing basis. We know again that those exercises are very effective for helping you stay in good shape, but keeping those fatigue and those other side effects at bay. And the third type of exercise that we prescribe as well often is some flexibility-based exercises, and they're really good for keeping your joints nice and mobile, keeping the limberness in the muscles, so reducing some of that stiffness that a lot of people tend to feel as well. And a lot of people already might be doing this through things like yoga or Pilates. And it's a fantastic form of exercise as well, I think, just for a bit of stress relief and good for mental health as well. So there are 3 types of exercises that you should definitely try and include in your general routine for, as you say, maintaining shape.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Kate. And is there any specific type of exercise that someone can do right now that will help them get more energy, maybe lose weight, or maybe they're two separate things?
Probably the main 2 that I would suggest from those 2 perspectives. So the combination of the cardiovascular and resistance exercise are going to be very important for both of those things. So, if you've got more muscles there, your body's going to find it less taxing and not have to use as much energy to perform a task. So whether that be, picking up pot plants in the garden or carrying the groceries around, you're not going to find that as tiring if you've got the muscles and the strength to be able to do that. And likewise, if you've got, more cardiovascular fitness from doing your walking, your swimming, your cycling, dancing, whatever it is, you're going to find it easy to be able to do things throughout your day, and that's not going to drain your energy bank as much. Yep. In regards to weight loss, which is, a different aim, but the exercise modalities that we would prescribe for that are actually fairly similar. Obviously, diet needs to come into that side of things as well, but certainly resistance training is actually very important for people trying to lose weight as well, because lean muscle tissue is what burns fat. So if you've got more of that, that's going to raise your metabolism and actually make it easier for you to lose weight, or even it might be just for some people just helping to maintain a healthy weight. So that's a really important point, that, if you're just doing some cardiovascular exercise and trying to lose weight, to make sure that you're including some form of weight training in your week to, that's going to be more effective.
Okay, that's fantastic. And speaking of diet, I know it's a completely different area, and we could probably spend hours talking about that alone. But what in your opinion are some, specific and I guess also realistic things that you could recommend to someone who is facing cancer?
In terms of diet?
Yeah, in terms of diet. I probably, just broadly speaking, I know that.
Yeah. That's okay. Look, I'm a really firm believer in utilizing food as medicine. And I think a really great place to start for a lot of cancer patients and people that have been through treatment is just with the food pyramid that we all probably will have seen, but whether we could name all of the sections of it, it's easy to look up, and it just, the thing is a balanced diet, really, whichever stage of treatment you're at, I think is a good place to start in terms of helping your energy levels, and whether you're looking to maintain weight or lose weight. I would like to highlight particularly that protein is very important, particularly, if you are doing those strength training exercises and trying to build a little bit of lean muscle mass, whether that be for weight loss or to maintain bone density or strength. The amino acids that protein contains are the building blocks to helping you build that muscle or maintain that muscle. So it's very important that you consume different sources of protein throughout the day. I think that's an important point. Obviously, it can be a little bit tricky for some people with different medications can affect appetite, and there can be a few other issues in there as well. So I think if if it's something that you want a little bit more help with, exercise physiologists can give you some general guidelines, but certainly I'd recommend getting the guidance of an accredited practicing dietitian, where you want a bit more guidance or are struggling with weight in some form. And they're the experts in their field, and it's relatively easy to find one on the DAA website. They're a great place to find that information.
Okay, that's great. And I guess many of us would also benefit from changes in our lifestyle. And what would you say would be some of the habits, I guess some keystone habits that you can put in place to make your life better, but in a way that is sustainable, that really isn't torture, for want of a better word?
Oh, I love that word, torture.
You must get that a lot.
Oh, sometimes.
Just kidding.
Look, I think the first one to outline is, particularly for people who haven't really done much exercise in the past, or they're just kind of starting out after a long break, is not to think of it, not to put too much pressure on yourself, and that it's not going to be, a really hard slog to start out with. And, if someone's getting you to do that right off the bat, then you're probably not quite in the right place, because it should just be starting with moving more, and I think that's a good way to think about it initially. It doesn't have to necessarily be structured sessions, but just, if you're not really doing a lot right now, just consider if you've got some shops that are 10 minutes away and you need to get some milk, maybe that's a great place to start with, just walking there. Or for some people, even just going to the letterbox might be enough. It might be just getting off the tram stop, tram line 1 station earlier, and including movement in your day that way, or taking the stairs, because all of that counts towards that incidental physical activity that I was talking about. I think another one that's really important is prior planning, particularly if you are suffering from a bit of fatigue and a bit of a lack of motivation as well. Just kind of planning some steps through your day can really help. And in the exercise physiology world, this is, what we often term as pacing. So, if you're having a busy day doing something, and it might be, you've got some family stuff on, and you're already on your feet a lot, that might not be the day to do a big exercise session or go for a longer walk that day. Or you might be looking at that day thinking, I'm probably not going to feel like, cooking a healthy meal that night. So maybe you'll put your exercise off till the next day, and maybe the day before you'll have prepared some sort of meal, and you can pop that in the freezer so that that's ready to go for that night. So I think that's where keeping a diary can be quite useful for a lot of people, and we do that with a lot of our patients here, so that they can put those steps in place to help manage life as a whole better. And the other thing I was going to mention, actually, in regards to physical activity, something that can be quite useful for people are pedometers or Fitbits. And they're really good, if you're lacking a bit of motivation, because they'll show you if you're hitting targets, and, they kind of give you something to work towards, but at your own pace as well, which is really important.
Yeah, because it's really important to see progress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they give you that measurement. They give you a target, and they show you, how you're going, which is, if you're not really motivated, that can really help once you see that in front of you. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. That makes a lot of sense. And is there anything else, Kate, that you would recommend for someone to stay in good shape physically, but also mentally and socially as well?
Yeah, diet's a really big one, obviously. So we already touched on that. Got a lot to do with energy levels and that holistic health. Staying in contact with family and friends, absolutely, and letting them in on what's going on as much as you can if you feel comfortable. A support network is very important, I think. So having those people around you, and if you don't have a lot of those people around you, you may find. I know in talking to David, he mentioned a couple of times the Cancer Council, and they have some fantastic resources that you can use if you sort of don't have those people to call on immediately around you. Psychologists are fantastic if you're not coping as well, and I can't recommend their services more highly enough. And the other thing that I think that is coming to the fore more recently is mindfulness. Which I think maybe you touched on with David as well. So I haven't seen a lot of research specifically on mindfulness and cancer, but I do have a few patients that have been certainly practicing it, and I'm an advocate of it myself, practicing advocate. And certainly they report very positive benefits out of it in terms of managing anxiety, and particularly around times of treatment or when they're coming up to scans, it can really help them cope. The research that I have seen does show that it helps slow aging down, so that's got to be a benefit for anyone,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a winner. So yeah, I think again, watch this space. I think that's something that will come more to the fore in some research about cancer. But yeah, it's definitely. And if you're interested in it, there's some great apps out there that you can just simply download to your phone for free, which you can pick it up from those.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. And I guess when it comes to exercise and also creating healthy habits in general, is that something that people tend to overlook, or maybe, perhaps it's something that people are not doing right?
I think just on a general level, I think often people just don't seek the advice that they perhaps need, or they're too afraid maybe to seek the advice from different people. So whether that be about exercise, I mean, I know a lot of people, often they'll come in and say, oh, I wish I did this earlier. That's a really common one. And I'm sure that's not just about exercise, but also diet. If they're struggling emotionally or with mental health, to find that support, because there are so many sources out there. And I think that's why it's great that you're doing this service for people, because sometimes it's just that people aren't aware of them. But certainly, again, the Cancer Council is a great place to start in seeking support for whichever of these types of, issues that you feel need addressing. There's an expert in essentially everything today. So they're out there and, they're willing to assist, but it's just finding the right one for you. But certainly don't be afraid to start with your oncologist as a starting point for asking those questions. If you're wanting to get started with exercise, you can always broach that with them and say, well, who should I see? Or, put in place some steps to find an exercise physiologist.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, I know you've started your own program called Movement Against Cancer. Can you please tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So our Movement Against Cancer, or MAC, we call it for short, is the program that we developed here at DNA Health Group. So completely developed and run by our own accredited exercise physiologists. And basically it came to fruition because we were seeing a lot of people with cancer, and we just saw this gap in that we knew that there were so many benefits for cancer patients for them to undertake exercise, but we didn't really have any programs for that that we knew of. And we thought the process should be fairly similar. My philosophy is that there's stage 1, 2, and 3 programs for people undergoing that have heart disease or heart issues, and the benefits are similar, if not stronger, for cancer patients. So why should there not be a program the same when there's 1 in 2 people now being diagnosed with cancer? We feel like this is something we really need. So that's how MAC came about, and obviously through my own interest in oncology. We see people through any real stage of their cancer journey, I suppose. So whether that's they've just been diagnosed, if they're currently undergoing treatment, or even a couple of years after treatment, the sooner the better though. And our practitioners basically work to determine with these people, what do you want to get out of the program? Do they just want to feel better, or do they want to, get back to running 5 kilometers for some people? And then, depending on what those goals are and what their condition is, we can put together an individualized program to help them achieve this. And that can be an involvement in one or a combination of different streams. So we have one-on-one sessions with an exercise physiologist. We have supervised group classes where the exercise physiologist is in the room with the participants the whole time. In those group classes, these people still perform their own exercise program, but they're in there with other people. So that's a fantastic social environment. A lot of people enjoy that one. We also can devise home programs or programs for other gym facilities if people are already enrolled with other gym facilities. And we can even take our services to home. So it's a very flexible, broad program, and we've had great success with it so far, which is good.
That's fantastic, Kate. Good on you. And I know you're big on having exercise program that is evidence-based. So can you tell us a bit more about what that is and how that's important?
Yeah, definitely. So as accredited EPs, we are working under a code of conduct when we do our accreditation every year. And this code of conduct states that we must keep up to date with the most current research. And we do that to prescribe what is essentially optimal for the individual person. So, if it's not proven safe by research, basically we won't do it. And it's really important that we state that because, fortunately, it's a good thing, but the research, particularly based around cancer, is constantly being updated. There's new stuff happening all the time, which is fantastic, but very much means that we need to keep abreast of it so that whenever we see a person, we can definitely say, we can show that this works and we can tell you that this doesn't. So we're going to only give you what works. So yeah, it just means that, it's a sound program all the time. And that's how it works pretty much, I guess. Yeah,
that's fantastic, Kate. So if someone wanted, I guess, to be a part of the program or to work with you individually, what would they do to get in touch or find out more information about you? Yeah, so the best thing to do is probably to jump onto our website, which is www.movementagainstcancer.com.au, and our contact number and emails are in there. There's also obviously a fair bit of information about the MAC program on the website. We have Facebook and Instagram accounts, which are constantly being updated with research articles in relation to exercise oncology. So they're well worth a look if you're interested. But the other thing I'll just mention is because presumably you have listeners from all over the place and they're not necessarily all close to us here, that if you're interested in getting in touch with an accredited exercise physiologist, you can, of course, ask your oncologist, but the other thing you can do is jump onto the ESSA website, so essa.org.au. That's our national accrediting body, and on there's actually a search engine for exercise physiologists, so you can pop in your postcode, and you even have the ability to search EPs who specialise in cancer. And find one that is close to you, because it's got to be convenient, right? Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a really good thing to do as well if you're not Melbourne based.
Cool, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Kate. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Joe.